Hello, my children. Today we're going to do a fortune of the new decade of 2020, and I hope that you are all ready for my thought. The first big thing that's going to happen is that on February 14th, there will be lots of love in the air. Jesus, these things really hurt my ears. Ow! Ow! What is going on, guys? So today we're back with another deep dive, and today we're actually going over a surprising, kind of almost disappointing Pokemon, because usually when we talk about Poliwrath, we talk about something that's like built for like PvP as a fighting type Pokemon. He's not like all attack, he's actually got some bulk, kind of like in the similar way of how like Metachem's stat spread goes. He's usually built for PvP, but unfortunately I was just kind of caught off guard at some of these numbers. So let's get into this. Poliwrath, of course, water and fighting type Pokemon. He does max out at 2586, which is actually pretty okay. 0-1 attack, 14 defense, 15 stamina. At level 22, actually does yield a 1498. If you actually take a look at Poliwrath up against the entire Fusion Cup, 31st in bulk and 26th in stat product, which is, well, that's okay. As a fighter, that's actually really good. That's quite high for a fighting type Pokemon. Now, of course, all of that does come from our base stats with a 182 on attack, 184 on defense, and a 207 on stamina. That's great. Now, in terms of our moves, so not only do we have a lot of these, so we're gonna need to kind of speed this up, but we have some kind of controversial ones. So let's just go ahead and get some of the bad ones out of the way first. Rock Smash, as far as the fast move go, but it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense here, unless for whatever reason you just really want to try to push like a ton of damage, but you want to forfeit like literally all of your energy. Rock Smash is just kind of like a no-go. Submission in terms of charge moves is also kind of underwhelming. 50 for 60 at a 1.2 is just really bad. After Stab, it doesn't get a whole lot better at 72 for 1.44. So, and it's also Legacy, so it wouldn't, to me, be worth chasing down some Poliwrath that has submission unless they end up changing that move. Frustration, no, just don't do it. So what that ends up leaving us with is Bubble and Mudshot, which in their own right are pretty controversial because some people like Bubble, some people like Mudshot. I am a Mudshot type of guy. I know, shoot me for it, but 4.5 energy for 1.5 damage. Yeah, you forfeit a ton of damage, but man, do you speed up the charge moves so much quicker. Bubble is not far behind it in energy per se. 3.66 for 2.6 damage. After Stab, it does get bumped up to 3.2, so it's actually pretty decent, and it gives you a lot more damage than Mudshot does. So for what it's worth, you could kind of tinker with that and probably make your Poliwrath a little bit more potent off of the gate, rather than like basically waiting for, you know, Mudshot to kick in to some, you know, good old charge moves. But either way, in terms of charge moves, we do have Hydro Pump, Ice Punch, and Dynamic Punch. Also Power Up Punch, how can you forget that? Basically, out of those moves, I'm going to say something also kind of awkward here, kind of how we've looked at in the past. I've got a moveset that isn't necessarily like looked at highly, especially on PvPoke. It's not the preferred moveset that they tell you to go with, but it is the moveset that's actually going to yield you the highest win percentage, but unfortunately you do forfeit the mirror. So the moveset that we're actually going to be looking at is Mudshot, Hydro Pump, and Power Up Punch. I know Ice Punch is amazing in a lot of regards, and yes, it actually does a lot better in some scenarios. I personally think, even though this moveset puts up the highest numbers, I personally think that Bubble, Power Up Punch, and maybe Ice Punch would be really interesting. I'm pretty sure the numbers on it were really low. I didn't write them down, but basically I think it would just be really cool because you'd already be doing a lot of damage with Bubble, and then Power Up Punch would help you get more damage on Bubble, and then you'd have like Ice Punch to keep yourself pretty speedy. I think that would actually be pretty cool. Otherwise, Dynamic Punch is actually really good. 1.8 on the efficiency before Stab is pretty insane. 2.16 afterwards. Highly recommend looking at Dynamic Punch just because of how good it can be. But in terms of this video, Mudshot is going to help us get to Power Up Punch insanely fast, which is basically just going to help us power up Hydro Pump to kind of obliterate, you know, everything. Power Up Punch hopefully will let us bait some shields out. Otherwise, it's just kind of there to help us boost our attack. So with that moveset in mind, let's actually move on to some shielding scenarios up against the entire cup here. In the 0 versus 0, we actually have a 50.3%, which is right in line where I would expect it to be. The 2 versus 0 is an 86%, which unfortunately is kind of low for me. The 0 versus 2 is a 9.8, so just barely missing the mark. I'll give it a pass for now. And in the 2v2, we actually have a 64.3, which is actually better than what I would expect. So that's all good and dandy. Let's actually check out up against the meta though. In the 0 versus 0, we actually have a 34.8, which is pretty low, unfortunately. The 1v0 is a 60.9. We don't even get the 6.9, man. The 0 versus 1 though is quite impressive at a 30.4. I do like that very, very much. And then the 1v1 is a 43.5. So all in all, on average amongst all of our shield scenarios, it's pretty low, unfortunately. It's just kind of underwhelming for this cup, to be honest. And I think it kind of goes along with, like, there's so much well-roundedness in this cup that Poliwrath can't just like kind of be like a surprise pick and just kind of come out of the woods and be like, oh, I'm actually really good. He's kind of had that chance several times in past cups, so I think this cup at least, that's just definitely not the case. But for what it's worth, we're going to take that 1v1 shield scenario, we're going to take that 43.5% that we had up against the meta, and we're actually going to put up all of our wins and our losses here. Let's actually take a look at our losses. We've got Alolan Muck, Alolan Marowak, Whiscash Quagsire, Alolan Sandslash, Charizard Probopass, Alolan Ninetales that is with Powder Snow, and then Bronzong and Frostlass actually round out our wins. Now in terms of losses, we do actually have a tie up against Golbat, which is going to be in the top right hand corner of your screen there. Then we do have Shiftry, Haunter, Poliwrath. Yes, we do lose the mirror, like I said. Heracross, Swampert, Venusaur, Altaria, Victreebel, Noctowl, Wigglytuff, Alolan Ninetales with Charm, and Togekiss rounding out the bottom there. Unfortunately, we do have, in the losses column, we do have some pretty big names. Altaria, Venusaur, Victreebel, Wigglytuff. I mean, there's just a bunch of big names down in the losses there, but let's actually kind of tear some of these apart and figure out what we've got for a ripe and rotten section. So in terms of like the first category that we really do bad up against, I would say the fairies are pretty prominent here. Togekiss, Alolan Ninetales with Charm, and Wigglytuff all give us a run for our money. It's just gonna basically come down to super effective damage, especially from any kind of fairy fast move. Of course, it's gonna be a big deal. Best way to kind of get rid of those are kind of the poison types, Alolan Muck, Golbat, Haunter, things like that can utilize some really strong poison moves. I know Haunter generally doesn't carry very many poison moves in his arsenal, but hey, he's got them. The next one that we actually have problems with are the flyers, of course, Altaria and Noctowl, and I think one of the better ways to go up against those would be the anti-flyers. I generally see Bronzong doing really well up against the flying types, but I definitely think that Probopass is probably the better one out of those. But in general, anything that can kind of handle the flying types would be really good here. And then lastly, our last category is going to be the grass types, of course. Victreebel, Venusaur, and Shiftry, all going to give us a big problem because we do carry that water typing. And honestly, one of the easiest ways to go up against the grass types is to use Alolan Marowak, Charizard, things like that are going to be super effective. You can even go ice here. You know, however you want to kind of like fit your team into that mold, it's going to work out pretty nice. So all in all, like I said, I'm just kind of like meh about Poliwrath this cup. He's just really underwhelming in a lot of areas. And I almost want to say that could be a byproduct of the whitelist meta. Maybe like, you know, narrowing down things that we knew. I'm not saying that they specifically targeted Poliwrath. I think that would be kind of ridiculous. If they wanted to specifically target him, they just ban him. Either way, I think that because of the choices along the way, it has kept Poliwrath at bay. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. If you still like Poliwrath, he still puts up some decent numbers. They're just not as impressive as before. But that is actually going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for watching. As always, remember that if you want to help dictate the next deep dive, you can do that in the Discord link in the description. Also down there are links to Patreon and YouTube members if that's your thing. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and head out. I will catch you guys in the next video, and see you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Always remember that if you like to like videos, you could do that, but if you don't, you could be that guy. Otherwise, let me know what you have to say down in the comments below about the video. I do highly appreciate you guys watching. If you guys want to support me in any way, there are several links down in the description for Patreon, joining the community here on YouTube, or even just directly PayPal if that's your thing. I greatly appreciate everyone's name that's on screen, as you guys have showed some sort of support outside of just viewing the videos, and I thank you guys. You don't understand from the bottom of my heart. So until our next video, guys, I will catch you then.